There's nothing to eat.
Today on Cook Something from Nothing, we're going to make hot honey barbecue chicken buns. These are some baked pulled chicken buns. They're pretty delicious. I've got this special flour here. It's farm to flour. We're going to use about 2 pounds of that in our large mixing bowl. And we're going to add about a day's supply of salt to this mix here. A day's supply of salt is about 2 teaspoons, 2 full teaspoons. So 2 pounds of flour, 2 teaspoons, nearly 2 cups of water. Here's our yeast. It's just Fleischmann's yeast. About 1 teaspoon of yeast will do. If you want to put more, it'll raise faster. It'll be more yeasty flavored. I use about 1 teaspoon now. I'm going to go ahead and dump that in. Now mix that around a little bit, and that way we can get our dry ingredients incorporated. You're going to need a scraper and a spoon to stir with. And at this point, we're going to go ahead and start adding our water. So you're going to add the water slowly. You don't want to get this dough too saturated. And what you're going to notice is there's going to be a certain point. It's going to have a dryness to it. It's going to be like dry plaster. And what's happening is the dough is absorbing the water. The flour is absorbing the water, and these gluten chains are letting go. And there's quite a bit of fiber and other organic materials in this version of flour. It's not as pure as all-purpose flour from the store. This is what I like about it. You have this nutty scent that comes out of it. It's amazing. And we're just going to add a little more water to this mix. It's a little too dry, and just a little bit goes a long way. You saw just about a tablespoon there. And you're going to see this is going to start sticking to the side of the bowls now. And as it does that, this is exactly the texture we want. And we're going to continue to let this dough hydrate. So as it sticks to the sides of the bowl, this is how we know we're at the moisture level that we need. And as you can see here, it kind of clumps together a little bit. It's stretchy. Sticks to the spoon, sticks to the bowl. This is perfect. Nice and tacky. Those gluten chains are relaxing out a little bit. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we got our scraper wet, and we're going to scrape the sides of our bowl, and we're actually going to fold this ball of dough here. Now, there's no particular way to fold it. You're just going to keep turning the dough, maybe by thirds, and just keep folding that over towards the center. Eventually, you're going to have this kind of like cornucopia bouquet of dough, and we're going to flip that seam so that it's face down. Now what we're going to do here is a particular type of folding. We're going to keep folding the edges underneath the ball of dough, and it's going to stick to itself. You'll notice that the scraper, the silicone scraper, does really well at cleaning the edges. Does really well at cleaning the edge of the bowl here. And we want everything that we can incorporated into that little ball there. And we don't want the bowl inside to be messy, because we're actually gonna oil this later. And what's going to happen with that is it's going to keep the dough from sticking to the side of the bowl as it rises. So it's going to rise more evenly. It's not going to bubble up and stretch itself apart. So make sure you put a good amount of oil on there. It's about 3 tablespoons for this 2 pound of flour dough mix. We're going to go ahead and coat that whole thing. And the important part of what we did here is we didn't actually spend a lot of time kneading it. We just actually stretched the hydrated dough until those gluten chains pulled out. And we folded those layers underneath it. It kept pressing down into itself. And so now we have this nicely layered wet dough that's going to rise very nicely inside this bowl. And you'll see it covers about roughly half of the volume of this bowl. So this will take 3 hours to rise, maybe about 2 hours, but in full it's going to take 1 day. 1 day is going to be your best fermentation. You're going to have great flavor, great texture. Okay, so now we're going to heat up a pan for our chicken. Our chicken's going to go into a hot pan. We're going to use the Leidenfrost technique to discover if the temperature's there. But set the chicken aside, and we're going to get our spice mix ready so that when our pan is nice and hot, we're ready to just throw our spices on there. So we're going to start out with some cayenne pepper. We're going to use about a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and we're going to use about 2 tablespoons of garlic to start out here. Now these spices, these are going to respond very well to heat. And so we're gonna get those on this hot pan after this chicken's nice and brown. So here's our onion powder. We're gonna use about a similar equivalent amount of garlic and onion. Here's our paprika. Paprika is important because when it breaks down into hot oil, it turns into this really amazing flavor. Paprika oleo oil or oleic acid or something like that. Here's our Italian seasoning, real important for a southern kind of barbecue flavor. A little extra black pepper for that black pepper taste and that kick. It's a really nice spice. So we're going to use the same amount of black pepper as we did our Italian seasoning and paprika. As you can see, those are pretty equivalent volumes there. All right, now here comes our oregano. I like heavy oregano in my seasoning. This might be like a Southwest sort of style flavoring. I'm not sure, but and then I forgot we put cumin in there as well. And then here comes about a teaspoon of salt. So again, we have about, what is it, about 2 pounds of meat. A teaspoon of salt is pretty decent to start with. You don't want to over salt, but you don't want to not salt at all. You can always salt a little bit later right before serving. All right, so we had our Leidenfrost checkout. That's our pan is nice and hot. And then right now we're gonna prep our chicken. I don't like all the little tendons and little stuff they keep on there that they leave on there. I cut all that stuff apart. And then I'm also checking the quality of the meat here. I find that there's always this large vein that goes into the chicken breast. And regardless of what they say, I've seen that thing. It's pretty gross. I don't like to eat that. I don't like to cook that into my food. So I actually cut that chunk of meat off. That's what you can see me doing here. I just don't like to eat scabs, you know. So I'm prepping the chicken. I'm doing like a rough cube, 1 inch by 2 inch, maybe 2 inch by 2 inch pieces. That just depends on your preference as to what size you want to cook those at. I have found another good comparison is like thumb-sized pieces. We just want these to brown nicely, you know. We don't want to have to work too hard, but we want a good caramelization flavor in this sort of mix here, because that's going to add a lot to our end result. Okay, so put this in our nice hot pan. The pan has accepted the oil very nicely after we had our pan heated up, and you can see this creates basically a non-stick coating. It's a nice hot pan with some oil freshly poured into it. You can see it'll almost immediately start to smoke. You don't want it to smoke. That's when you just throw your meat in, boom, you can hear that sizzle. And then, so we're gonna continue to cook this. It takes about 4 minutes maybe, and it'll start to turn brown. As you can see, it's not brown yet. It's kind of this yellowish color. We want a little bit of a darkening, a little bit of a Maillard action there on this chicken, because that's gonna add a lot of flavor. Okay, so I should be using tongs, but here's my spatula, so I'm kind of being gross about it. I'm sorry. But, you know, you just wash your hands if you touch the raw chicken, that's all. Anyway, so here's our caramelizing chicken. I'm going to toast my spices now with the rest of the chicken. You can see there's some water and some juices down in the bottom of the pan. This is going to create a nice little slurry, little sticky gravy there. Okay, now real important is you want heat control. You're gonna have to turn the heat down. You're gonna get that lid on there. Those spices are gonna steam in that chicken. Whatever's touching the pan is gonna toast up. And go ahead and, you know, wash your hands thoroughly after you do things like this. But here we go. All right, so we're gonna start to get into this real action now. So our spices, you don't want to burn them, right? So we're gonna get that thing, we're gonna get that heat lowered a little bit. We're gonna take it off the heat a little bit. We're gonna add some vinegar. So some vinegar is gonna help us deglaze the bottom of this pan. It's gonna go great with our barbecue sauce. You don't need much. So so here goes a little half teaspoon of vinegar. Hits the bottom of the pan, immediately steams. It's not quite enough. So we're going to add another little half teaspoon of vinegar here, because this stuff's sticking a little bit to the bottom of the pan, and again, I don't want it to burn. So here we go. It's going to be our start of our little sauce here. All right. Now you can smell that little vinegar hit the air as it steams, and you can see it working immediately. It starts to deglaze. That's not quite enough liquid. We don't want our sauce to taste like vinegar, but so we can help it along. It's still hot. We're going to add some water. Just a little splash of water, about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons at the most. If you want it a little wetter, go ahead, but honestly, this is not the base of our liquid of our sauce. This is just to get that stuff unstuck from the bottom of the pan. That's the whole point of this process. So don't over wet it. You'll regret that part. So you get that pan deglazed. It looks wonderful, nice and smooth there. Okay, turn your heat down. All right, so now we got our barbecue sauce. I'm not sponsored by anybody. This is just a flavor I prefer. We're gonna add our barbecue sauce. Don't add too much. We want enough liquid so that this chicken is like suspended in a little bit of liquid. It's simmering, but we're not trying to drown this chicken in sauce. That's not the whole point of this. The whole point of this is just to get a nice flavor profile on the chicken itself, keeping the chicken nice and moist, not allowing the chicken to burn or caramelize any further. Now we're letting it simmer down into its own steamy, saucy goodness. And so I added just enough barbecue sauce again to like get that chicken kind of wet, get it glued together a little bit. And so what's going to happen is we're going to turn this heat all the way down to a level 2, maybe between a level 2 and a level 1. It's going to be on a nice low simmer, low simmer. And what's going to happen is this low simmer is going to break down all that connective tissue in that chicken breast, and it's going to turn it into a delicious pulled chicken texture. And so this is absolutely wonderful for you could put this on any sandwich, but we're going to put it inside of a baked bun. So this chicken, it has to go for about 2 hours, no more than 3 hours. Once it hits that 3 hour, you got to cut it off. Otherwise, you're going to start drying it out. It's going to fall apart all weird. But right now, it's going to steam really nice. And you'll see. So this has been a 2.5 hour mark right now. And you can see this chicken is about to just fall apart. I just take these 2 spoons, crush it a little bit, and those little fibers splay apart just a little bit. It turns itself into the most wonderful pulled chicken mixture you've ever had. Now, if you go a little heavier on the cumin or oregano, you add a little bit of enchilada sauce, guess what you got now? You got enchilada filling. So, this is a base of something that you can work with quite a bit. So you're going to add some salt. I tasted mine. It wasn't salty enough. You got to salt the taste. Here comes some honey. This is our honey part of our hot honey barbecue buns. I'm adding a little bit at a time. You don't want to overdo the honey. I just want it to be nice and saucy. I found it didn't have enough kick, the cayenne pepper. I want a little more kick to mine. I like a little more zesty. You don't have to add this. This is just what I prefer, So right now we're in this like most creative part of this this meal. You're trying to make this sauce taste. I'm sure you have this idea of barbecue in your head, and so I gave you the base of it. You got the base of the meat. We got the chicken browned. We got those spices browned. You got your favorite sauce in there. This chicken stewed for a couple hours, and now there's something. I'm looking for a certain flavor. I'm sure you're looking for a certain flavor. So you add a little more garlic, you add a little more sauce, you add a little more onion. Just use the spices we already have in there. We're just trying to get a little more pop, a little more detail to pop out with whatever it is you're looking for. So all right, so now we got this nice and sticky, nice and blended up. It doesn't quite have enough honey in it, so I'm going to add a little more honey to it because I'm just looking for that little sweetness. I need that little sweetness. It's not quite there yet. All right, so I'm going to let that simmer down after I stir it up all nice, mix it up. I want to get that honey incorporated into that chicken. And this only has to go for about 5 or 10 more minutes. And I find I keep tasting it, and I'm just looking for a little more. So I'm going to add a little more onion, It's going to bring it to that little more garlic. It's going to bring it to that savory, zesty side with a little sweeter honey, a little. I got that little more cayenne kick in there. All right, so we're going to put a lid on that. It's going to go for a couple more minutes. All right, so we got our dough. Our dough has been raising in the fridge. It's been a day for me, but it'll look like this after 3 hours. And what's cool about the amount of yeast that we use putting it in the fridge, it won't over raise unless you leave it for like 2 days straight. All right, get your foil and your parchment ready. This is going to be the base of our pan here. This way our dough doesn't stick to our pan when it's finally baked. And we're just going to pinch off enough dough to make something about the volume and size and shape of if you hold 2 knuckles out with your thumb. So it's about, give it a 2 knuckler. All right, go ahead and dip that in that dry organic white flour. This is what I use for a desiccant. This way it doesn't stick to our parchment. I'm going to go ahead and pinch off as many of these little loaves as I want. And here I'm showing you the technique of how to fold that dough and shape it so that it's more evenly distributed layers of dough stretched nicely into a ball. And so go ahead and get that all set up. We don't want this to take too long. The more chilled your dough is, the easier it is to work with. All right, so now you're going to powder your fingers, powder the dough, and we're just going to pinch out the edges. We're going to roll out these edges. Keep the center a little bit firm, a little bit thick, but we're going to roll those edges nice because those edges are going to be needing to be nice and thin so that when we pinch the whole top together that it doesn't over-create a big fluffy layer. So pinching out those edges a little bit, making a nice circle, nice flat piece of dough. We're like making the opposite of a pizza crust. It's thicker in the center and it's thinner on the outside. All right, so now we're going to pad this whole thing with some chicken. This wonderful barbecue chicken that we got. Go ahead and spoon up a nice spoonful. It should be about half of the volume of the entire surface there of the, I don't even know how to describe this. You need enough room to pinch edges together and fold that little dough over. And what I do here is I hold the one side and I keep spiraling around in a circle as I pinch the edges towards the center. This creates like a nice tart sort of look to it. It doesn't make the top of it so closed up that it actually allows the steam out. It might open up a little bit, which is perfect, so we don't even have to cut the thing to allow steam to exit the bun. And here I'm just showing you the little technique here that you just literally, it's so, I can't even explain it. It just folds itself. Just keep lapping over in a spiral, working your way around in a circle. You get this nice spiral sort of tart shape around your chicken mixture. Okay, so now this is up to you. From here, you can let these things raise for a couple hours, let them get to room temperature. You can get nice, fluffy, crusty dough. I prefer kind of that pizza dough texture. I like this sort of cold dough to go right in the oven from here. So I'm going to oil these up. That almost creates like a nice deep fried texture. You can salt the outside if you want to add some salt. We're going to set a 15-minute timer. That 15-minute timer is going to tell us that it's time to rotate these. And these have to go into the oven at 425 degrees. That'll set the dough, it'll help it raise, and it won't burn the dough or the bread as it continues to bake. And so another 15 minutes after rotation, so about 35 minutes is what these take at 425 degrees. All right, so here, they're ready to pull out of the oven. You can see they're nice and toasty. That dough went from a nice pale color to a beautiful toasty golden brown. Nice rustic flavor, nice rustic look, really nutty smelling, really full of wheat. It's like, and so here we go.
Wow, you made this?
How can it be? It looks so good.